Chile, South America. Stories for your family and your kids and everybody else. The technique was very simple. You just walk into the bus and gave a stick of incense to the driver to satisfy him. Just say, we'll leave you alone. And then just say the mantra to the 30, 40 people on the bus. And we used to sell a bunch of books per bus, so it was fun. You get that kind of result. And if nobody will buy, or will just say, yeah, just 1 second, let me finish, I'll go right there, like faking that there was someone interested in the back of the bus, so everybody would turn around. So, after extinguishing the devastating fire, Krishna, surrounded by his relatives, friends, cows, calves, and bulls, and glorified by his friends singing, again entered Vrindavan, which is always full of cows. While Krishna and Balaram were enjoying life in Vrindavan in the midst of the cowherd boys and girls, the season gradually changed to summer. Summer season in India is not very much welcome because of the excessive heat. But in Vrindavan, everyone was pleased because summer there appeared just like spring. That was a long time ago. This was possible only because Lord Krishna and Balaram, who are the controllers even of Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, were residing there. In Vrindavan, there are many falls which are always pouring water, and the sound is so sweet that it covers the sounds of the crickets. Because water flows all over, the forest always looks very green and beautiful. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were never disturbed by the scorching heat of the sun or the high summer temperatures. By the way, the highest temperature on earth was recorded in the Death Valley in the Mojave Desert. Up until a few years ago, that Govardhan overcame that old record at 132 degrees in the shade. So things are not the same right now. The lakes of Vrindavan are surrounded by green grasses, and various kinds of lotus flowers bloom there, such as the Kalara, Kanja, and Utpala. And the air blowing in Vrindavan carries the aromatic pollen of those lotus flowers. When the particles of water from the waves of the Yamuna, the lakes, and the waterfalls touched the bodies of the inhabitants of Vrindavan, they automatically felt a cooling effect. Therefore, they were practically undisturbed by the summer season. Vrindavan is such a nice place. Flowers are always blooming, and there are even various kinds of decorated deer. Birds are chirping, peacocks are crowing and dancing, and bees are humming. The cuckoos there sing nicely in 5 kinds of tunes. What happened to the brahmacharis? Oh, well, I see. This year will be remembered as the great sugar epidemic of 2020, I think. The virus will be diminished by sugar. The cuckoos there sing nicely in 5 kinds of tunes. Krishna, the reservoir of pleasure, blowing his flute, accompanied by his elder brother Balaram and the other cowherd boys and the cows, entered the beautiful forest of Vrindavan to enjoy the atmosphere. They walked into the midst of newly grown leaves of trees whose flowers resembled peacock feathers. They were garlanded by those flowers and decorated with saffron chalk. Sometimes they were dancing and singing, and sometimes wrestling with one another. While Krishna danced, some of the cowherd boys sang and others played on flutes. Some bugled on buffalo horns or clapped their hands praising Krishna. Dear brother, you're dancing very nicely. Actually, all these boys were demigods descended from higher planets to assist Krishna in his pastimes. The demigods, garbed in the dress of the cowherd boys, were encouraging Krishna in his dancing, just as one artist encourages another with praise. Up to that time, neither Balaram nor Krishna had undergone their hair-cutting ceremony. Therefore, their hair was clustered like crow's feathers. They were always playing hide and seek with their boyfriends or jumping or fighting with them. Sometimes, while his friends were chanting and dancing, Krishna would praise them. "My dear friends, you are dancing and singing very nicely." The boys played at catching ball with fruits such as bell and amalaka. They played blind man's buff, challenging and touching one another. Sometimes they imitated the forest deer and various kinds of birds. They joked with one another by imitating croaking frogs, and they enjoyed swinging underneath the trees. Sometimes they would play among themselves like a king and his subjects. In this way, Balaram and Krishna, along with their friends, played all kinds of sports and enjoyed the soothing atmosphere of Vrindavan, full of rivers, lakes, rivulets, fine trees, and excellent gardens filled with fruits and flowers. Once, while the boys were engaged in their transcendental pastimes, a great demon of the name Pralambasura entered their campaign desiring to kidnap both Balaram and Krishna. Although Krishna was playing the part of a coward boy as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he could understand everything, past, present, and future. So when Pralambasura entered their company, Krishna began to think how to kill the demon, but externally he received him as a friend. "Oh, my dear friend," he said, "it is very good that you have come to take part in our pastimes." Krishna then called all his friends and ordered them, "Now we shall play in pairs. We shall challenge one another in pairs." With this proposal, all the boys assembled together. Some of them took the side of Krishna and some of them took the side of Balaram, and they arranged to play in duel. The defeated members in duel fighting had to carry the victorious members on their backs, as a horse carries its master. They began playing and at the same time tended the cows as they proceeded through the Bandiravana forest. The party of Balaram, accompanied by Sridama and Vrishava, came out victorious, and Krishna's party had to carry them on their backs through the Bandiravana forest. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, being defeated, had to carry Sridama on his back, and Bhadrasena carried Vrishava. Imitating their play, Pralambasura, who appeared there as a coward boy, carried Balaram on his back. Big mistake. Pralambasura was the greatest of all of the demons, and he had calculated that Krishna was the most powerful of the coward boys. In order to avoid the company of Krishna, Pralambasura carried Balaram far away. The demon was undoubtedly very strong and powerful, but he was carrying Balaram, who is compared to a mountain. Therefore, he began to feel the burden, and thus he assumed his real form. When he appeared in his real feature, he was decorated with a golden helmet and earrings, and looked just like a cloud with lightning carrying the moon. Balaram observed the demon's body expanding up to the limits of the clouds, his eyes dazzling like blazing fire and his mouth flashing with sharp teeth. At first, Balaram was surprised by the demon's appearance, and he began to wonder, how is it that all of a sudden this carrier has changed in every way? But with a clear mind, he could quickly understand that he was being carried away from his friends by a demon who intended to kill him. Immediately, he struck the head of a demon with his strong fist, just as a king of a heavenly planet strikes a mountain with his thunderbolt. Stricken by the fist of Balaram, the demon fell down dead, just like a snake with a smashed head, and blood poured from his mouth. When the demon fell, he made a tremendous sound, and it sounded as if a great hill were falling upon being struck by the thunderbolt of King Indra. All the boys then rushed to the spot. Astonished by the ghastly scene, they began to praise Balaram with the words, "Well done, well done." All of them then embraced Balaram with great affection, thinking that he had returned from death, and they offered their blessings and congratulations. All the demigods in the heavenly planets became very satisfied and showered flowers on the transcendental body of Balaram, and they also offered their blessings and congratulations from his having killed the great demon Pralambasura. Thus ends Bhaktivedanta purport of the 18th chapter of Krishna, killing the demon Pralambasura. So here it is, Balaram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead servitor, who has pretty much the same might, one may say, as Krishna himself. And this demon Pralambasura thought he could get away with murder literally. And he didn't. It's not like Balaram is different from Krishna. Balaram is a little unusual, a little more eccentric, unpredictable. And maybe if Pralambasura, I think, would have carried Krishna, Krishna would have enjoyed fighting with Pralambasura for a while. But Balaram, just he got down to business right away, just struck him once with a fist and the demon fell dead. That was it. Just wasn't in the mood, I guess. In the pastime of Hiranyaksha, the Lord Boar, and the story tells that they fought for quite a while. They went up and down, and they were, hitting each other and so on. And the demigods were getting a little apprehensive, as if, this is going on for a little too long. So they asked Krishna, come on, get it over with. So Krishna, with his hoof, hit him, kind of slapped him, really, like kids do to each other, just hit the back of the ear. He slapped them, and so Hiranyaksha twirled a few times and fell down dead. So this is, you don't play with the personality of Godhead or his brother as if you had any chances. Just like a child. The other day I was wrestling with Abai, and I wanted Abai to believe that he had a chance. But honestly, he didn't have a chance. So Krishna does more or less the same thing. He just gives people a chance. You can really beat me up. You have a chance. You're good at this. But they don't have a chance. And Balaram, doesn't waste any time. Just gets rid of the demons because they impede the pastimes. So Balaram, being just like Krishna, pretty much, he has all the powers and all the attributes of the Supreme, except for a few, but this is all details. And time has come and he's gonna make his appearance. It's not that he ever disappeared. He's always with us, but he's gonna manifest his appearance just like Krishna likes to play like a dramatic actor, ta-da, just dressed in a different costume, but he's so good that he actually changes completely. He presents himself in so many different ways. Why otherwise would he appear as a turtle or a boar or a fish? There's no reason. He can just show up as himself and take care of business. But he just likes to play. He likes to play. Like when he appeared as Kurma, he basically had an itch, and he thought that was a good way to get rid of the itch by having the Mandara mountain span at tremendous speed on his back, and at the same time he took advantage and polished some of his jewels by pressing them against the twirling mountain. And Lord Fish, he could have saved the Vedas just mentally, just rearranging everything or showing up and just taking care of business. But no, he was feeling like swimming, so he showed up in an 8 million mile form. So he chose to swim in the ocean of devastation, because there were good waves, I guess, and carry the Vedas. Let's not forget he saved the Vedas and all that. But he could have done that instantly. So all these pastimes are because Krishna is a dramatic actor, and he's in the spiritual world. We can hear this is. They play. That's all they do. I'm going to bring Abai back into the conversation. We were talking about Vishnu and Krishna. What's the difference? So Babai said it's the same person. Well, but if it is the same person, why not say that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Vishnu and not Krishna? He said, no, Krishna is the Supreme Person, and because everyone comes from Krishna. So this is the Achintya philosophy explained by a 5-6-year-old, which is marvelous. I don't know how it's possible. There's no ordinary reason why a 6-year-old could explain philosophy, But I told him that there was another difference. The difference is that Krishna is the only one who doesn't have a job. All the other incarnations do stuff for living. Like Vishnu is in charge of the universes, and that. Okay, it's not much of a job. You just lay down, get a massage, and breathe. That's about it, and everything happens. But it's a job. He has a day job. But when God has nothing to do and just plays, that's Krishna. That is the difference. The Supreme Person is, and Balaram is right along. He's participating in all his pastimes. So it's very fortunate that the ultimate goal is to join Krishna in his pastimes. But the price is kind of expensive. It's that you have to give up your false ego and your love for the material world and for praise and adoration and all that stuff, and love Krishna without any barriers. There will be no impediment. You just love Krishna above all. So where are we? Where are we at right now? If we do have an immense capacity for love, for both giving and receiving. So in our giving love, how much is for Krishna and how much is for something else, or for ourselves, or for what we think we are? So that's a measure of advancement. If you love Krishna more than your own life, then you're already in the spiritual world. So, we can, with your indulgence, we're going to read a little bit about Rupa Goswami and Gauridas Pandit. Is their disappearance today? If there are any comments, questions, or reflections about Lord Balaram, I would love to hear them now. Anybody? Oh, Mother Nidra, please give us a little wisdom and get us out of mediocrity.
Thanks, Prabhu. So, Prabhupada was saying that there's no difference between Krishna and Balaram, except Balaram is whitish and Krishna is blackish. And then he asked who's stronger, Krishna or Balaram. And so because Balaram is leaning on Krishna's shoulder, then Prabhupada explained that Krishna is stronger. And maybe at some point you might explain how Balaram becomes the older brother because of the transcendental frustrations of like Lakshman trying to serve Ram. So I guess there's a transcendental history of why the brother of the Lord, who was younger as Lakshman, wanted to come as the older brother of the Lord. So there's some history behind that, if anybody wants to tell that. Oh. Well, I was just briefly to say that Lakshman, of course he loved Ram more than his life, so there was so much that he wanted to do in his service to Ram, but he was submissive to Ram's instructions, and so many times there were incidences where Lakshman would have perhaps done things differently, but he was younger and he had to submit. So then he, according to what I've understood, he wanted to become older brother of the Lord. That was it for being the younger brother. He just wanted to be the older brother so that he could serve in that way better, serve the Lord better.
I'm glad it worked out for them. I have a younger sister who would never pay attention to what I said. So, Gauridas Pandit. Anybody knows who Gauridas Pandit was in Krishna Lila? Without using your phone and without being Bal Gopal. Yes, which one? Yes. Did you just whisper? Did you just whisper? Yes. Subal. In Vraja, this is from Agora Ganodesha Dipika. In Vraja, Gauridas Pandit was Subal, one of the 12 Gopals. He's one of Nityananda Prabhu's dearest associates. He was totally devoted to Nityananda Prabhu. He was, his first residence was Muragacha, a few kilometers north of Mayapur. Then he moved to Ambika Kalna. His father was Kamsari Mishra, mother was Kamala Devi. His three older brothers were named Damodar, Jagannath, and Suryadas. Suryadas, he had a title, Sarkel, and anybody knows the name of his daughters? I know you know. No? You want to take a guess? He was totally devoted to Lord Nityananda. So his daughters were Vasudha and Janava, and he gave him Gauridas Pandit's Suryadas gave his daughters to Lord Nityananda. Now that's a good candidate there. Suryadas was magnanimous, so his younger brother was Gauridas. Gauridas had a disciple. What was the name of his disciple? Come on, freshen up. Hridaya Chaitanya. Hridaya Pandit was Lord Nityananda's dad. So chronologically it wouldn't work. So the current temple, as at Ambika, houses the deities of Gauridas. He had Radha Krishna, Gaur Nityananda, Jagannath Balaram, and Sitaram. As one enters the temple grounds, there is a large tamarind tree. Mahaprabhu and Gauridas met under this tree. And another valuable items in the temple are a paddle, not a ping pong paddle, a paddle for a boat, and Bhagavad Gita that according to history, or what came of it, it was handwritten by Lord Chaitanya himself. And when Lord Chaitanya gave him the paddle, said, "This is what I used to paddle the lost souls back home. So now it's yours. You can do it." Gauridas was a very good preacher. And the Lord embraced them. Very, very fortunate. Actually, if you go to the temple, Bhakti Ratnakar says that you can actually see still the paddle and the Bhagavad Gita. They're still there. I don't know. I don't want to be skeptical, but in India, sometimes they bring things, this belong to this belong to that, and so on. You can't really tell. It would be nice if they were. There's no harm if they aren't. Just like if you go to Bethlehem, and I've been there, there's still people selling straw that they say is from a stable where Jesus was born. They have gone through a lot of bales of hay for the last 1,000 years. So when Mahaprabhu paddled across the Ganges to come to visit Gauridas, he sat under the tamarind tree in the courtyard. Gauridas asked Mahaprabhu to stay permanently with him in Ambika. In order to fulfill his devotee's desire, Mahaprabhu revealed that his form and that of Nityananda Prabhu were hidden in a nearby neem tree. Gauridas took this as a hint to have deities of Gaurnitai carved from its wood. It's also said that Nityananda was physically present when these deities were being carved. When Mahaprabhu and Nityananda were about to leave, Gauridas did everything in his power to hold them back. Mahaprabhu calmed him by saying, "Nityananda and I are directly present in these forms. You can tell either the deities to go or we can leave. You choose." So Gauridas said, "You stay. The deities can go." So this happened, actually. So these deities are Gaurnitai themselves. And when you offer bhoga to them, they eat it. It's not like other deities that they leave remnants. They eat everything. So they have to cook separately for everybody else. So that's Gauridas Pandit, very exalted devotee. Now we read about Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami, I guess we can call him the original Prabhupada. He is the reason, pretty much, why we have a movement. He personally, with his brother, excavated the sacred sites in Vrindavan, brought it back to its former glory. Because Vrindavan was pretty much a little overgrown by weeds, and there were no ponds, etc., etc. Radhakund and Shamakund weren't there. They were re-excavated, and the forests were, they did all the geological work and the surveys necessary to bring Vrindavan back to its former glory, which Maya is trying to cover now by paving and bringing skyscrapers and fat tourists from Delhi and so on. But so if you go to Vrindavan, you will have to actually work harder at seeing Vrindavan, because Krishna is hiding it, just like he's burying Govardhan. Govardhan is getting smaller and smaller, so eventually probably nobody will know where Govardhan is. So in the same way, Vrindavan is being covered by more material layers. So if you want to go to the real Vrindavan, you will have to actually struggle. You have to be very fortunate. You have to pray a lot, and you have to associate with the right people and stay in the right places. Very bewildering. But at this time, nearly 500 years ago, 500 plus, I guess in 1,000 years people will still say 500 years ago when Lord Chaitanya appeared. So I think it's 580. I can Pandit, you know? Okay. I don't know how many years ago. Actually, we can calculate. There you go. So Rupa Goswami was born in 1489. So that makes it 531 years, right? And he departed in 1558. He was born in a Brahmin family, but because of work, he got to work for Hussein Shah, which was the local boss, real boss. Actually, he was a Kshatriya, and he was in charge, and Muslims were in power at the time, and even when he incarcerated Sanatana Goswami, it says that he went to conquer Orissa. He just left to conquer a state. So he wasn't just a bureaucrat. He was a fighter. And Hussein Shah gave Sanatana Goswami the name Sakar Malik, and Rupa Goswami, he was the chief minister, Sanatan, and also an important minister was Rupa Goswami, who got the title Dabir Khas. And the Shah addressed them by these names. So there were no longer Rupa and Sanatan at that time. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu arrived in Ramakeli, where they were, Lord Chaitanya had a large entourage. There were thousands of people following him. Just like a Pied Piper, Lord Chaitanya was very attractive, and so the Shah was kind of concerned. Who is this guy? Does he have any political ambitions? So Rupa Goswami, in a very diplomatic way, was able to extol the glories of Mahaprabhu without revealing his identity and dispelling the fears of the Shah that he's here to beat you up or take over or anything like that. There was so the Shah wasn't worried, and that's how Lord Chaitanya got to get through that. There was Mahaprabhu arrived in Prayag, crossed the Ganges, went to a village called Arail, where Balabhabata made his residence. And when Balabha heard that the Lord had come, he immediately rushed to Prayag to meet him and fell to the ground in obeisance. Mahaprabhu embraced him, and then the two engaged in conversation about Krishna. Balabhabata was astonished to see the ecstatic reactions of the Lord in the course of their discussions. As soon as Rupa and Anupam, that they were going to meet Mahaprabhu, saw Balabhabata, they paid obeisances to him from a distance out of humility. When he came forward to touch him, they both reacted by saying, "We are lowly untouchables. You should not contaminate yourself by touching us." They sat down at a certain distance from them. Mahaprabhu was pleased by the display of humility, while Balabhabata was impressed. The Lord said to Bhatta, "You are an older aristocratic Brahmin, while these two belong to a low caste. You should certainly not touch them." Balabhabata was able to divine that there was some hidden meaning to the Lord's utterance, and he asked how they could be considered of a low caste when they chanted the name of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya said that he was going to teach humility through Rupa Goswami and tolerance through Haridas Thakur. So if you want to take a good example how to chant the holy names better, we definitely have to develop humility and tolerance. So take the examples of Haridas Thakur and Rupa Goswami. Through Rupa Goswami, Mahaprabhu taught the world about Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes and the process for attaining Krishna in Vrindavan. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami writes, "Through the mercy of Sanatana, I have learned the devotional doctrines, while by the grace of Rupa, I have been able to discover the extensiveness of the divine aesthetics of devotion." That's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Lord taught about sacred rapture and Vraja's pastimes of love through Rupa Goswami. Who can effectively describe the subtleties of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela? Particularly relevant is Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary on the importance of studying and writing books as an element of devotional practice. The lives of the Goswamis were exemplary in their renunciation. Sometimes they would engage in chanting the holy names of the Lord. Sometimes they would worship Him by writing books on divine aesthetics, like Bhakti Rasa Shastra. Sometimes they would remember or glorify Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is an idea that has some currency among Prakrita Sahajas, this is during the time of Bhaktisiddhanta, that devotional practice entails the renunciation of studying and writing devotional scriptures. Indeed, that any kind of scriptural study should be stopped so that one can attain to a state of ignorance. Those who follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami have no patience with such ideas. However, if a devotional practitioner studies or writes devotional scriptures for the sake of making money, through which to satisfy his material senses, to attain material fame, respect, or any of the other insignificant and superficial goals which are classified as distractions or weeds in the garden of devotional service, then he will not attain the auspicious results which are the real fruit of such activity. A real Rupanuga has no fruitive ambition for such petty results. There was during the 70s, there was this guy, Guru Maharaji, I don't know if you even heard about him, who was claiming, just a little Indian boy, that his mother claimed that he was God. So, of course, you obey your mother. So if your mother tells you you're God, you just go about it. And one of the main instructions of this Guru Maharaji is that you shouldn't read, you shouldn't study, you shouldn't read scripture and so on. Because if you do, then you find out that the guy is phony. So this is the opposite of our conclusion. You should study. You should, like when Prabhupada heard that there was someone in Vrindavan that was, every time there was a kirtan, was showing signs of divine ecstasy, just falling on the floor and, rolling his eyes and fainting and so on. Prabhupada wasn't in Vrindavan at the time. Devotees didn't know what to do. Because those times, it's not like now, it's not like Google, it's not like cell phones and so on. Basically, everybody had to wait for a couple of weeks. You ask Prabhupada via letter, and then Prabhupada sends a letter back and tells you what to do. Prabhupada knew everything and nobody else knew anything. So they asked him what to do. And Prabhupada said, kick him in the face with boots. If he doesn't complain, then it's okay. And then it's divine ecstasy. So this is, of course we don't do that, but we hit him with, Siddhanta. We hit him with Shastra. Because there is a system of balances and checks and balances after all. It's not like, we accept everything everybody says. Even if it's sitting on an asana, on a vyasasana, and somebody says something that sounds a little fishy, then we should question them. Really, where do you get that? Where is the evidence from Shastra? What do the acharyas comment on that? And where did you get it? Another occasion, Prabhupada was asked a question, Prabhupada, is it true that you said such and such? And Prabhupada said, I would like to meet that Prabhupada that said so many things that I haven't. It's not like that. So, Rupa Goswami, empowered by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he presented a whole and a range for many literatures to be written to elucidate this most cryptic portion of the philosophy, bhakti rasa. So that's why we are called Rupanugas, because we don't do things without Rupa Goswami's authorization. This is our school. Like if you're in elementary school and during class and you want to go to the bathroom, you have to raise your hand and ask the teacher. You can't just run out, no matter how bad you feel. So we cannot mess up in the classroom. We have to ask permission from Rupa Goswami and all the previous acharyas. Is this even possible? Because otherwise, it's the ego talking. It's the false ego. You may have a realization here and there, and you just have to, you cannot just announce it like if it was, the greatest discovery in the history of the world. You have to actually check if, okay, it makes sense. Let's see if there is any validity to it. You ask your superiors and you look in the scriptures and see if you actually can come up with something new. We're supposed to, because Krishna consciousness is ever fresh. So as you make advancement in Krishna consciousness, you will have newer and newer realizations. Even when you read a book, it should be more and more light coming out of the book. It's like you read it's like reading the phone book. You get the same names and same addresses, same zip codes. Our scriptures are not like that. There is newer and newer material coming out. And everybody has experience. Most likely everybody has experienced that you're looking for an answer about something in your life. And you just open one of the books, and there it is. All of a sudden, you see it in black and white, that the answer to your question is right there. And you read that paragraph before. You read that same sentence with the same letter, same ink, nothing changed. But you have gotten a little depth by dint of your practice of devotional service. And now you can see this is addressed to you. And also because it's Krishna, and Krishna is a person, and persons reciprocate with persons. So you can always get solace, you can always get answers from sadhu, shastra, and guru. You should be able to. All right. Enough of this long diatribe going nowhere. And any more, maybe you can add something substantial to these vapid display. Any question, comments, or realizations, or reflections, or chastisement, as Sanatana Goswami said, if you praise me, you're not my friend. If you chastise me, you are my friend. So, do I have any friends in the audience?
I was just wondering if you could say something about well, I guess I have two questions. One is that Rupa Goswami was the younger brother of Sanatana Goswami, but he's considered the leader of the 6 Goswamis. So I was wondering if you could clarify that, explain that. And then can I ask my other question too? Yeah. Other question is, if you could speak on that verse that's in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita that says that Rupa Goswami has established the mission of Lord Chaitanya on this planet because he knows Lord Chaitanya's desire. And so how, I would just like to hear about that.
I can answer the first question and maybe defer the second answer to my esteemed colleagues in the bleachers over there. Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari. Rupa Manjari is the principal assistant to Lalita, who is in charge of things. So it is only logical that Rupa Goswami will be in charge because it's his job in the spiritual world to be in charge of arranging things for Lalita to arrange things. This is a position that doesn't change. You see, hierarchy doesn't mean, if you're in charge of people, you're better than them. It's actually, because in the spiritual world, the logic doesn't work like that. Everybody's pushing everybody else towards Krishna. They're not trying to elbow their way to Krishna and to arrange the things of Radha Krishna. They're happy to be in the background. But this is one of the duties of Rupa Manjari, that she is in charge of setting things up for Lalita, who is directly arranging for the meeting of Radha and Krishna. So this is only logical, he will do the same thing. And when it comes to this side of the pond. And as far as your second question, I'm sure my esteemed colleagues will take a shot at it.
Thank you for a really nice class, Prabhu. It's really, really wonderful to hear your ideas and thoughts. So, in terms of Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam, Srila Rupa Goswami understanding the mind and desires, abhishta, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and then spreading Krishna consciousness. First, I was first thinking about how Prajumna Prabhu, who is Sanskrit scholar to Srila Prabhupada, in his memories, he asked Srila Prabhupada about publishing Sanskrit books. So when you were reading that section, about studying books or printing, you write books and, for monetary gain, you're not going to get the benefit of devotional service. Prajumna Prabhu asked Srila Prabhupada about writing books in Sanskrit. And Srila Prabhupada brought up Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and how the 6 Goswamis never had the idea in their mind that they were going to be published. Which is really amazing because for us, Nectar of Devotion and so many books that have been published and now it's circulated throughout the whole world, Srila Prabhupada said they were just writing those books for each other. So Srila Rupa Goswami writing Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and then giving it to Sanatan Goswami giving Brihad Bhagavatamrita. It was just them writing for themselves to bring them deeper into Krishna consciousness. Even Srila Rupa Goswami writing, books for Srila Raghunath Das Goswami. So in terms of Srila Rupa Goswami, understanding the mind of Lord Chaitanya, we see it Jagannath Rath Yatra, where Lord Chaitanya is saying the Sanskrit verse that everybody knows through studying Sanskrit, starting with Ya Kumara, and it's like a love poem, like a popular love song. But Srila Rupa Goswami writes the actual intention of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying that verse, and bringing out the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the writings of, you could see Uddhava Sandesh or Hangsadutta, where he's revealing the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, always experiencing the separation of Krishna, like in Srimati Radharani, feeling separation from Krishna, and giving us books like Upadeshamrita, Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I mean, these books are studied by scholars in the secular world on bhakti, and how Srila Rupa Goswami gave us the practice of bhakti rasa, actually abhideya. So some might say Sanatana Goswami gives us sambandha through Brihad Bhagavatamrita, gives us like the foundation of our relationship with Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami being the abhideya guru, he's giving us actually, here's the process of sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, Raganuga sadhana bhakti. So even nectar of devotion, it's amazing how Srila Prabhupada gave us nectar of devotion in 1960, was it 1969 or 1968? 7. So, 1967, right? I think it's earlier than that, isn't it? Anyway, but it's one of the first books that Srila Prabhupada gave to the movement. I believe it's 1968. I could be wrong. Okay. But just to show how Srila Prabhupada gave us that before so many scriptures, and how he really wanted us to dive into nectar of devotion to really see what bhakti is, rather than just something in the mind. Do you want to say something, Prabhu?
I'm looking for something, maybe later.
Okay. Maybe Mother Nidra, somebody stop me babbling.
Thanks, Prabhu. So, I wasn't going to say on this topic, but is that okay? All right. Just wanted you to elaborate on Lord Balaram's giving spiritual strength, if you can describe to us how we can understand spiritual strength. What is that like?
First, I would like to thank you for the answer, and I'm very glad I stayed away from venturing any kind of silly answer. The spiritual strength, the strength of one's practice comes from the connection with the parampara, and Lord Balaram is the original guru, so all strength comes from him, and this is the way Krishna wants it. It's not like we cannot come to terms or do things ourselves, but it shows pride and arrogance to step over one's instructor. It's like, the guru is not a disposable item. So Lord Balaram is eternally our guru and everybody's guru. And this is how Krishna wants the method to work. That you don't, if you Like if you think you can do things, then you don't need any help. You won't get any help. It's like a child and said, let me tell you this. No, let me figure it out by myself. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. All the acharyas have done the homework for us. And the Guru Parampara means that you can connect with any of the acharyas at any given time through your Guru. So at any time that you are actually following your Guru instructions, you are actually associating with Balaram. And that's where your strength comes from. Yeah. There is no strength in us. The strength is in our connection. We are that fan that at any time can become unplugged by our pride, greed, arrogance, lust. Anything can just pull the plug from a socket. So if there is no connection, there is no strength. This is just a temporary thing. It's basically our strength transformed into inertia. And when the inertia stops, our strength stops too. So these are very auspicious days where we can actually pray for strength directly from Balaram. Like there is no one more merciful. Yeah. Like Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda. You cannot go to Lord Chaitanya, just like you cannot go to Krishna without Balaram. You can't go to Lord Chaitanya without the mercy of Nityananda, who is Balaram. Balaram Hoila Nitai. So, yes, if you need any strength, that's a source. Go to the source. Anything else? Prabhu's? And we should all write. I mean, this is a command. Prabhupada said, if you have some life and you just write your realizations, even if they're not very significant, they will become. And they're also cathartic, therapeutic, and revelatory. Even if you write something. Of course, in the process of writing, there's also editing, which is almost as important as writing. So they say that when you write something and you think it's a stroke of genius, put it away for a week. And when you come back and look at it, probably the thing that gave you the most elation is the thing that should be edited first out, because it's not necessarily like that. But we should write. This is actually it's a very intimate and absorbing service. I just don't think it's just some pastime. It's actually service. You're actually giving your mind a venue, because our mind is very cunning and may disguise the way it present things, and we may accept them as foolish as we are. So when you actually see it written, you say, what? No way. So you actually can see your mind at work and dissect it and be aware. Next time your mind gives you some silly instruction, then you can say, no. I know this trick. I'm not falling for it again. So it's actually very good to have reference. Of course, on the other hand, Prabhupada said, say any damn thing, but don't write it down. But that doesn't apply to this particular exercise, which is actually very advantageous. So I encourage everybody to write. Even you'll be surprised both ways by how stupid you are and by how many realizations may come out. So as you get older, you lose your capacity to be surprised. So this is a good thing. All right. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Lord Balaram, all glories to Srila Rupa Goswami and Gauridas Pandit.